Hello everybody, welcome to this latest edition of Snow Talk. This is Wave 3 News meteorologist Brian Good on this Tuesday evening with you guys, filling in for Kevin Harnan, who's out this week. We are tracking some minor changes to the forecast as we head into the short term, and then we'll talk about that weekend system. And for the first time, we'll get into more detail on how Christmas Eve and Christmas Day are beginning to look now that it's entering our range here of our 7-day forecast. Keep in mind, on Snow Talk, each and every day when we do a blog post, we look at the next 14 days for any possibilities for snowfall. This is your official Snow Lovers headquarters. If you're a snow lover, this is where I'm trying to dive in details for you guys. So every single time we do a blog post, we are always looking for something of interest, and then we dissect it and see if it's valid or not. So let's get right to it. First off, the stats. One minor change, the normal to date has increased slightly, 1.3 now for the season. That's we're still ahead of the game though, 3.7, but still way below compared to last year at this time. On the board tonight, I'm not including this minor system for Thursday morning. I'll show you why. But Friday night and Saturday, I've taken it down to just one full Twix bar. I want to take it down to half. But considering we are expecting the final adjustments really in the storm track for the system to come in tomorrow evening, I'm going to wait on that. So I'm going to go just one bar. Same thing for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and I do see a system just before we say goodbye to 2014. And some light rain showers passing through. The radar, though, has been trending cold enough aloft that some of that is mixed in with some sleet and perhaps even a few snowflakes at times. Just don't be surprised if you hear a sleet pelt hit your windshield or you see a flake fly by. It's not a big deal. The moisture is moving out quickly tonight, so this is only a brief period here of anything frozen that would take place. Now, wider view shows how we've got two systems ahead of us that we're waiting in the wings here. Let me turn on the visible satellite so you guys can see a better look here to the system. Here's the first one. You see how the cloud shield across areas of New Mexico into Texas, you see how that cloud shield is beginning to increase. That is a sign that we're seeing our next system develop, a fairly weak one, but it will produce a decent amount of snow in Missouri and eastern areas of Kansas before it falls apart completely. But this is the big guy. See that little swirly cue there? That is the one that's going to come in our area as we head into Friday night into Saturday. But see, we're just not able to get it into our network. It's been out here at sea for a while. Now we're getting into where we can really sample the data of the system as it moves on shore into California. We've got weather balloons. We've got tons of instruments we can launch into these systems to really get a better handle of the data that we can put into the computer models. That's why I think the evening runs for tomorrow night will be the first full set of data that has the ground truth to this system. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if there's any adjustment at all to it. All right, let's talk about the short term first. Tonight, we try to clear out in spots, but the models always seem to do this. They try to clear us out, it never happens. And I don't think it's going to happen tonight. But it's going to be cold tonight, certainly. Upper 20s to lower 30s around Kentuckiana. Mostly cloudy tomorrow. We may see a peak or two of sun, but I just don't think with this next wave already streaming in a cloud deck in Texas, it's going to be here fast tomorrow, so I just don't see a lot of sun. Now here's where things get a little more interesting as we head into Thursday. You notice it's got some streaks here, some snow breaking out throughout the day. Most of the daylight hours, if anything falls, I'm not worried about it. The only concern I'm going to have is going to be right at sunrise. And at that point, there's going to be a period where this area is going to be right at 32, if not slightly below. So if there's any snow flurries or a brief snow shower, got to watch that for maybe a slick spot or two. Otherwise, if it waits until later in the day, you can see we're all going to be warm enough to where this is not going to be an issue for most of Kentuckiana as we head into the daylight hours. But just, again, very minor system there. All right, so let's get into the weekend. Here's how I'm going to explain this. Here is GFS, Euro, Canadian. These are what they call the operational models. These are the ones that update every few hours. This is the ensembles of those same models. These have more data with them, so we look at those to see if they are lining up to the model counterpart above when the data comes in. I hope that doesn't sound too confusing, but that's kind of the breakdown of how this screen is looking. So here it is, GFS. This is for Friday night. You see it's trying to close off the low pressure in the northern Gulf of Mexico. There's the rain snow line north of Kentucky. The Canadian doesn't really close off the low that much at all yet at this point. Rain snow line further south, southern Indiana. And the Canadian almost lines the rain snow line right on the river. And it does close off the low. But look at the ensemble of the Canadian. It is slightly stronger. Not by much, but slightly more organized. So that's something to watch. Sometimes these models can trend toward their ensemble as time goes on. So we'll watch that. But if you look at these other two, they match fairly good. I don't see anything dramatic there. So let's go to Saturday morning. Here we are Saturday morning. GFS takes the low over areas of southern Alabama. Rain snow line just north of Louisville. The European closes the low off southern areas of Mississippi and Alabama. Rain snow line south of Louisville Saturday morning. And the Canadian, it is south of Louisville with a closed low right along the panhandle of Florida. You look at the ensemble again of the Canadian. Look what it's doing here. It's slightly more to the north, although it is a little warmer too. It's not as cold at the ground, so keep that in mind. European looks pretty good here, and the GFS looks to match its counterpart. All right, now let's go to Saturday night. Saturday night, the system is now beginning to transfer energy on the GFS off the eastern seaboard. We're on the back side of this, so it'll be slightly colder. Here is the European model, tracking off the east, still a fairly weak low. And the Canadian, again, offshore, developing a stronger low off the Carolina coast. But look at the ensemble again. It's trying to hold on to the upper low like a double barrel look to this here as we head into Saturday night. The other ones really don't show that feature. Overall, it's not impressive, is what I'm trying to say. If there's anything that I would suspect that may change, would be something the Canadian's hinting at, and that would be maybe a slightly more intensified low pressure, even a double barrel. But the bad news with that is you get warmer air involved, so that would actually increase the chance for to rain, actually, based on that. So here is the experimental GFS. I want to show it real quick. It's a fairly weak low, and gives a mixed bag along the river, and then a light snow band out to the north. Here's where I'm going to draw the map. Right now, my thinking on this is it's going to be a situation where we've got mainly a mix of rain and snow. May start as snow, then it goes over to rain, then may end as snow. Kind of a back and forth deal for most of Kentucky. But our northern counties have a better chance to see a band of some light snow. And depending on how cold you get, it could accumulate on grassy areas, maybe some slush before you warm up even to maybe some touches of rain throughout the day on Saturday. If I had to put numbers on this, I would say it's going to be a very light amount, minor system overall. But we'll have to watch it. We'll see what happens when we get the new data tomorrow night and see if this changes at all. But this is the way it's looking now, and it looks dramatically different than what it did, obviously, over the weekend when it was a little more potent. So let's look even further ahead. After this system leaves, we look at the indices here. Notice on the European and the GFS and the experimental, the NAO is going down, and the AO is going down. That is a good sign of blocking and cold air. But also notice the PNA is going slightly negative. This means that the ridge is going to try to fight us the best it can. And you can see evidence of that on the models as well. Now, for the longer range, I can't show the Canadian, but here is the GFS, again, operational models at the top and your ensembles at the bottom. This is going to be Tuesday, the day before Thanksgiving, or Thanksgiving, the day before Christmas Eve. This is where it's showing a very strong low, just diving into the Great Lakes. The Europeans showing that too. The ensembles match the GFS perfectly on that. But here's the difference. Look at the European. It's developing a southern low along with the northern low to the top part here of your screen. And the ensembles hint at that, but not as strong as the operational. What is interesting about that is when I looked at the experimental GFS, it is doing the same thing. It is counting on a surface low to the south and that strong low diving in from the north and east. This is, again, Tuesday. So now as we get into Christmas Eve day, what we're seeing happen on the GFS, it just has that one low in the Great Lakes becomes dominant. You just got cold air, windy, light snow flurry, snow showers. The ensembles match that. On the European, the low is much more wrapped up. I mean, this is crazy wind here and snow showers. I mean, just a blustery forecast for the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley area. I mean, it just looks really nasty. And the ensembles show very much a one dominant system here for Christmas Eve. And then when I looked at the experimental GFS, it bombed the same scenario here. It took that surface low and it gets sucked into it, and it becomes one big low before it heads out to sea. This tells me we would be facing a rain event to start with on Tuesday, and then that cold air rushes in. This is not exactly a heavy snow maker, though. I will say that. This is more of a situation where you would get more snow showers and flurries, and it blows around like crazy. I mean, this is very strong winds. Your big snow would likely be closer to the core of the big low to the north. But all we need is 1 inch to be officially declared a white Christmas. So I have kept the snow and ice potential up high. It should be mainly snow. I've lowered the rain risk because I do think that by that point on Christmas Day, it looks to me to be more frozen than anything. So Christmas Eve and Christmas night, or Christmas Eve night, is looking interesting for us. It looks cold and snowy, but I will be honest, I don't see a big snow, just a blustery looking pattern. But we'll have to keep an eye. That double low setup is interesting. The European is hinting at, and we've got to watch, see how that evolves, and see if the other models jump on that, or is this just a fluke? Did the Euro just have a hiccup today? We'll see. But at least all the models at this point agree it's going to get cold on Christmas, and that cold is going to stay with us all the way through the beginning of 2015. I'll see you tonight on the 11 o'clock news.